Hey, English learners, welcome back to the Millie English podcast, your cozy place to learn easy English through real-life conversations. I'm Millie, and I'm really happy you're here with me today. Maybe you're walking, cooking, commuting, studying, or just taking a break from your busy day. Wherever you are, I'm glad you pressed play. This episode is around B1 to B2 level, so the English is natural and conversational, something you can really use in daily life. You don't need to understand every single word to learn something. Just grab the parts you understand, borrow the sentences you like, and let the rest pass by. No pressure, no stress. Real conversation first, vocabulary hidden inside, no boring grammar lectures while you're trying to enjoy your day. At the end, we'll do a calm little word tour. We'll pick some useful phrases from the episode, explain them, and help them stay in your mind. If you enjoy learning English like this, you can like this episode and subscribe to the Millie English podcast. It really helps more learners find us, and I'd love to hear from you. After you listen, write one sentence in the comments. Tell me, what's one thing you wish your education had taught you? Okay, so today we're talking about education, but not in a boring academic way. I want to talk about real education, the kind that prepares you for life. Because here's what I've been thinking lately. We spend years and years in school. We learn math, history, science, literature, all important things. But then we graduate and realize nobody taught us how to manage money, how to handle stress, how to build healthy relationships, how to think critically. So today, I want to have an honest conversation about what education gets right, what it gets wrong, and what we can do about it. By the end of this episode, you'll have some thoughts to chew on, and maybe some ideas about how to fill the gaps in your own education. So take a deep breath with me, get comfortable, and let's talk about learning, growing, and becoming who we want to be. Let me start by saying I'm grateful for my education. I really am. School taught me how to read, write, do basic math. It introduced me to history and science. Those are valuable skills. I use them every day. But looking back now, I can see huge gaps. Things nobody taught me that I desperately needed to know. Nobody taught me how to manage my emotions. I learned the periodic table, but not how to calm myself down when I'm anxious. I learned algebra, but not how to budget my money or understand taxes. I can recite historical dates, but I never learned how to have difficult conversations. I remember graduating from school feeling smart, but completely unprepared for real life. I could write an essay about Shakespeare, but I couldn't negotiate my salary. I could solve complex equations, but I couldn't cook a healthy meal or fix a leaky faucet. I had knowledge, but not practical skills. And I think a lot of people feel this way. We leave school thinking we should know how to be adults. But we're just winging it, learning through trial and error, making expensive mistakes because nobody taught us basic life skills, getting into debt because nobody explained how credit cards work, staying in unhealthy relationships because nobody taught us what healthy communication looks like, burning out at work because nobody taught us about boundaries. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming teachers. Most teachers are doing their best with limited time and resources. The problem is the system, the curriculum, the idea that academic knowledge is more important than life skills. We prioritize memorizing facts over developing emotional intelligence. We test students on information they'll forget instead of teaching them how to learn and adapt. And I think it's time we had an honest conversation about this. So let's talk about what I think education should include. The skills that actually matter in daily life. Financial literacy. First, money management. How to budget, save, invest. How credit cards work. How to avoid debt. What taxes are, and how to file them. These are not optional skills. These are survival skills in the modern world. Yet most people graduate without any financial education. We learn by making mistakes. Expensive, stressful mistakes. Wouldn't it be better to learn these things in a classroom first? Emotional intelligence. Second, understanding and managing emotions. How to recognize what you're feeling. How to calm yourself down. How to communicate your needs. How to set boundaries. How to deal with conflict. How to support others who are struggling. This is not soft stuff. This is essential for relationships, for work, for mental health. But we act like emotions are private business, not something you can teach. Critical thinking. Third, how to think for yourself. How to question information. How to spot manipulation or misinformation. How to analyze arguments. how to make decisions based on evidence, not just emotion or what everyone else thinks. In a world full of fake news and social media algorithms, critical thinking is a survival skill, but many education systems still focus on memorization instead. Communication skills. Fourth, how to communicate effectively, how to write a clear email, how to have a difficult conversation, how to listen actively, how to present ideas confidently, how to give and receive feedback. These skills affect every area of life. Yet many people leave school terrified of public speaking or unable to express themselves clearly in writing. Basic life skills. And fifth, practical stuff. How to cook nutritious meals, basic first aid, how to maintain a home, how to use technology safely, how to research information, how to apply for jobs and prepare for interviews. These shouldn't be things you figure out by accident. I'm not saying we should throw away traditional subjects. Literature, science, history, they all have value. But we need balance. We need to prepare students for real life, not just exams. Let me be honest about what I think is broken in traditional education systems. Not to complain, but to understand. First, the one-size-fits-all approach. We put 30 students in a room and expect them all to learn the same way, at the same pace. But people are different. Some learn by doing, some by listening, some by reading, some need more time, some need more challenge. Traditional classrooms can't accommodate all these differences, so some students get left behind. Others get bored. Second, the focus on memorization over understanding. We test students on their ability to remember facts and regurgitate them on exams. But memorization is not learning. Real learning is understanding concepts deeply enough to apply them in new situations. Google can give you facts instantly. What matters is knowing what to do with those facts. Third, the fear-based motivation. Study hard or you'll fail. Get good grades or you won't succeed. Don't make mistakes. This creates anxiety, not curiosity. It makes students afraid of failure instead of seeing it as part of learning. And fourth, the disconnect from real life. Students sit in classrooms wondering, when will I ever use this? And honestly, for a lot of what they learn, the answer is never. That's demotivating. Learning should feel relevant. I'm not saying teachers are bad. Most teachers care deeply. They work incredibly hard. But they're working within a system that's outdated, a system designed for a different era. We need education that's flexible, practical, and focused on developing whole humans, not just academic performers. So what did I do when I realized my education had left me unprepared? I took charge of my own learning, and I want to share what worked for me. Because I think we all need to become lifelong learners. I read widely. I started reading books outside my comfort zone. Books about psychology, personal finance, communication, philosophy. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to understand life better. Reading became my self-education. Every book taught me something school never did. How to be more confident. How to manage money. How to build better habits. I learned from mistakes. I stopped seeing failure as shameful. I started seeing it as feedback. Every mistake taught me something valuable. I messed up financially? Okay. Now I know how credit cards can trap you. I had a bad relationship? Okay. Now I know what red flags look like. Mistakes are expensive teachers, but they're thorough. I found mentors. I looked for people who were good at things I wanted to learn. I asked questions. I observed. I listened. Mentors can be formal or informal. A colleague who's great at public speaking. A friend who manages money well. A family member with emotional wisdom. You don't need to hire expensive coaches. Just find people who know what you want to know. I took online courses. The internet is full of free or cheap education, YouTube tutorials, online courses, podcasts like this one. I learned practical skills like cooking, basic home repair, digital skills. Things school never taught me. The key is being intentional. Don't just scroll. Choose what you want to learn and actively seek it out. I practiced in real life. Knowledge without practice is just theory. So I applied what I learned. I practiced having difficult conversations. I started budgeting. I tried cooking new recipes. I worked on my communication skills. Real life became my classroom. And that's when real learning happened. Not from reading about it, but from doing it. Education doesn't stop when you leave school. In fact, that's when it really begins. So what's the solution? How do we fix education? I don't have all the answers, but I have some ideas. Start teaching life skills early. Schools should include financial literacy, emotional intelligence, and practical skills in the curriculum, not as optional extras, as core subjects. Children can learn about budgeting, healthy relationships, and critical thinking alongside math and reading. Focus on learning how to learn. Instead of memorizing facts, teach students how to find information, evaluate it, and apply it. Teach them to be curious, to ask good questions, to think independently. These skills last a lifetime. Reduce the pressure. Make learning about growth, not grades. Encourage experimentation and failure. Create environments where it's safe to not know the answer. When students are less anxious, they actually learn better. Make it relevant. Connect lessons to real life. Show students why what they're learning matters. Let them apply it to real problems. When learning feels meaningful, motivation comes naturally. Involve parents and communities. Education shouldn't only happen in schools. Parents should teach life skills at home. Communities should offer mentorship and real-world learning opportunities. It takes a village to raise educated, capable humans. And on an individual level, we can take responsibility for our own continuous learning. Read. Ask questions. Try new things. Make mistakes. Don't wait for someone to teach you. Become your own teacher. All right, it's time to slow everything down. We've covered a lot today, and I want some of these phrases to really stay in your English. So let's do a calm word tour together. No stress, just listen. Chew on. Chew on means to think about something carefully over time. For example, this episode gave me a lot to chew on. Or let me chew on that idea for a while. Wing it. Wing it means to do something without preparation, improvising as you go. For example, I didn't know how to be an adult, so I just winged it. Or I forgot my notes, so I had to wing the presentation. Trial and error. Trial and error means learning by trying different things and seeing what works. For example, I learned to cook through trial and error. Or success often comes from trial and error. Burnout. Burnout means to become exhausted from too much stress or work. For example, I burned out at my job because I didn't set boundaries. Or many teachers burn out after a few years. Prioritize. Prioritize means to decide what's most important and focus on that first. For example, we need to prioritize life skills and education. Or, I'm learning to prioritize my mental health. Soft stuff. Soft stuff means topics that seem less serious or practical, often emotional or social. For example, people think emotions are soft stuff, but they're actually crucial. Or, don't dismiss the soft stuff. It matters. Regurgitate. Regurgitate means to repeat information without really understanding it. For example, exams often test your ability to regurgitate facts. Or, don't just regurgitate what you read. Think about it. Red flags. Red flags are warning signs that something is wrong or dangerous. For example, I learned to recognize red flags in relationships. Or, that's a red flag. Be careful. Left behind. Left behind means to not keep up with others, to fall behind. For example, some students get left behind in traditional classrooms. Or, I felt left behind when everyone moved faster than me. Take charge. Take charge means to take control or responsibility for something. For example, I took charge of my own education after school. Or sometimes you have to take charge of the situation. Lifelong learner. A lifelong learner is someone who continues learning throughout their life, not just in school. For example, I want to be a lifelong learner. Or, the best professionals are lifelong learners. It takes a village. This saying means it requires many people working together to achieve something. For example, it takes a village to raise educated children. Or, remember, it takes a village. Don't do it alone. There you go. 12 useful phrases from today's episode. You don't need to memorize all of them right now. Even if 2 or 3 stay with you, that's already amazing. So, before we say goodbye, I want to leave you with one thought. Your education is your responsibility, not just when you're in school, for your whole life. The world is changing fast. New skills become important. Old information becomes outdated. The people who thrive are the ones who keep learning, who stay curious, who aren't afraid to admit they don't know something and go find out. So here's your tiny homework. Think about one skill you wish you had. Maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's managing money. Maybe it's public speaking. Then write one sentence in the comments. Tell me, what's one skill you want to learn this year? Just naming it is the first step. Then go find one resource, one video, one article, one book, and start learning. If this episode made you think about education differently, please like this video and subscribe to the Millie English podcast. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for being someone who values learning and growth. Education doesn't end, it evolves, and you're in charge of yours. I'm Millie, and you've been listening to the Millie English podcast. Bye.